Despite spending millions of dollars and years planning the expansion of San Diego's convention center, the idea was killed this week after the city decided against challenging a court ruling on financing the project. The decision is renewing talk of building a Charger Stadium downtown and possibly expanding the convention center in an unconventional way. Joining me are Stephen Johnson, Vice President of Public Affairs for the San Diego Convention Center, and San Diego City Councilman David Alvarez. Steve, let's start with you. Do you think the city stood a legal chance in appealing the court ruling that struck down the financing plan of the expansion through a levy on local hotels?
Well, I think the decision by the appeals court was very strong, and I think the city council made the appropriate decision.
David, so much money was put into the planning of this expansion, and yet the financing didn't have strong legal ground. How did this get past the city's legal advisors?
Well, actually, there was a vote a couple of years ago, and I was the only council member who voted against the financing scheme. We did have advice from the city attorney that said that this could be challenged and that we were trying new ground. And so we were warned, but still, folks decided to move forward on it. Again, myself being the only exception. And the trial court was very, very clear about that this was a tax, and that in order to have a tax approved, you can't just do it by the legislative body, by the city council. You have to go to the vote of the people. And that did not happen in this case.
And why were you opposed to this expansion?
Well, I felt that the tax, the way it was created, was first unfair, and second, I actually thought it was going to be problematic constitutionally, as it ended up being. It was created in a way that taxed some hotels more than others, and it wasn't even taxing the hotels, it was taxing the guests, the visitors. And again, it's very clear that if you are going to tax people, that you have to get a public vote for that, and it has to get approved, and it wasn't done that way, and so that's why I didn't support it. But with that said, at this point where we're at is how are we going to build an expansion, a facility, a convention center facility that's going to meet the needs of us here in San Diego. And as you very well eloquently pointed out, for me, I'm interested in talking about how could we potentially discuss a joint use facility with something like a Charger Stadium, or talking about a facility somewhere else that's a little bit different than what we've been hearing for the last couple of years.
So Stephen, I know that in the past you have not been supportive of an idea of a non-contiguous expansion. Do you think that's an idea that you might be able to get behind now?
Well, I think what we've done is just done the market research to talk to our clients and brought that information forward. And what policymakers have to do is take all the information, both the information we bring forward, but also other information, and make a policy decision. So we're doing our job just trying to advise the policymakers on what kind of a product the clients are looking for and want to buy. It becomes then a policy decision as to what they want to do in terms of building additional exhibit space.
And what kind of product do the clients want to buy? I mean, what's
Right.
the downside of a non-contiguous expansion?
Well, the downside is some of the clients that are currently outgrowing our facility are not going to come back into San Diego's rotation if they don't have space, and they need a larger space and they want it to be contiguous. So we may lose some clients, but we'll also gain clients, smaller shows, if you will, if there is a non-contiguous expansion. So there are upsides and downsides, and I think what we've tried to do is bring all those pieces of information together forward. We've advanced an expansion for contiguous that would accomplish all the real goals that we were shooting for. Where we are now is we have to revisit kind of the conversation, and as Councilmember Alvarez says, have a larger community dialogue about how we move forward.
And that community dialogue is already beginning to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
It's been going on for a very, very long time, but there was a new idea that was floated by former state legislator Steve Peace about allowing San Diego State University to rent Qualcomm Stadium, which would generate more cash for the city, and then could possibly provide financing for a stadium downtown, a new Charger Stadium downtown, as well as convention center expansion. What do you think of that idea?
Well, I think it's a very interesting idea. I think the decision that was made by the council this week to sort of move on allows us to engage in this really more creative thinking. Ideas like this one, where could we look to potentially solve the solution? And as Stephen mentioned, From the Convention Center Corporation side, for business, for them to attract businesses the way they wanted to, they were looking for this contiguous space. For myself, as a policymaker, as a leader here in the region, I need to look at different things. I need to look at how do we solve the issue of growing our convention facilities so that we can be competitive. Now we can talk about the chargers and how could we engage them in this discourse. And then there's the idea of the old Qualcomm site and how do we best utilize that site that's been so underutilized for so many years.
And we're going to end it there. Councilman Alvarez, Stephen, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Absolutely.
Thank you.